I'm excited to introduce is Sanjay Narona from Google. His talk is entitled Designing Truly Helpful Products, a Faith-Based Perspective. So I'll intro him a little bit and then we can go to the talk. So he is a product manager at Google and works on the Google Nest Wifi product. Making the decision of why to make a new product is one of the key ones he wrestles with almost daily. In his personal life, he's a husband and the dad of teen boys, and he stays involved in several communities and initiatives through his Catholic parish. With this grounding, he's had the opportunity to reflect on how to think about problems we're solving and how to approach them. And with that, this is a great segue to the content of his talk. So Sanjay, take it away.
Thank you so much, Joy. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share our faith with each other and our perspectives as we approach work and daily life. So let me talk a little bit about me. My work is I'm a product manager at Google. What does that mean? That means that I work with teams to help identify new product opportunities. And then I work with these teams to actually bring them to life. I'm a Catholic. I'm from San Jose, California, and Joy talked a lot about this before. So I've worked on several Curcio retreats, which actually help people discover their faith, people like me who didn't really understand it until a few years ago. And I have quite a few hobbies, so you guys can see that over there. My foundations, I would say I grew up a Jesuit product myself. And what does that mean? If you're familiar with the Jesuits, they're a Catholic order that run quite a few universities and schools around the world. They are very renowned for higher education and a particular way of thinking, which we were taught in high school. That's my high school over there, St. Xavier's in Mumbai, India, to be people for others, right? Men for others. Think about what is it that you're trying to achieve? What is the purpose of what you're trying to do? And when wrestling with problems, try to understand the problem, try to understand the specifics of the problem, which then can lead you to perhaps even go outside of what you think are your standard principles of operating. And then once you've understood the problem, you want to respond thoughtfully versus just reacting, and be grounded in faith. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I often forget the last bullet. I don't mind admitting that to everyone. But it is something that when I do remember it, which I try to do on a daily basis, it's been just profound in the answers that come with such clarity on what is the next step, what is the next direction that I need to be taking here. So with that, let me talk a little bit about this approach to product management, or product and technology development, which I would say is a personal thing. This is not necessarily the way that Google does this. But it certainly is my philosophy and something that I try to do very actively as I work towards ideas or work with my teams in the company and in my product and my work life. The first thing is try to discern what it is that you're trying to do. And discernment actually means to judge well, but with spiritual guidance. So we're going to take a step back. We're going to say a prayer and say, hey, what's our purpose here? What are we trying to achieve? The next thing which we need to really think about is, did we identify a clear and essential need? Let us not build technology for technology's sake, because if we do that, there is the potential for going off the rails and doing something potentially quite bad with the technology because the access is there. Rather, if we think about what are we trying to achieve, what are the clear goals here? For example, with COVID, right? If we think about what's been going on in the last 4 or 5 months, how have our lives changed daily? How do we interact with other people? And is there the opportunity there to be thoughtful and improve products or improve technology or create products which could help serve a clear and essential need? And this requires thoughtfulness, requires, for me at least, prayer, which is grounding. And then from there, you can get the clarity of what you do next. The next piece is, okay, you've developed this amazing technology, but have you made it accessible to the end user? So what I mean by this is, let's think broadly about our brothers and sisters. Just because we made some cool tech doesn't necessarily mean that they can buy it, procure it, be helped by it, right? We need to think about, is this thing actually affordable? What if someone can't plop down $200 to buy something, $300 to buy something? How do we make this accessible to them in a way that they can afford it, or find a way of reaching these users by being creative, right? And this is very important in this day and age where so many things that we're doing are done virtually rather than physically. Once we've identified the problem, then comes the question, which is, how do we respond, right? What do we do about these problems that we've identified that are clear issues? For example, we're on these video calls right now, and things might be really challenging for some people. Like I said earlier, I have two teenage boys. They're both on distance learning, online learning. Do people have access to technology, the right quality of computers or Wi-Fi or what have you? So let us think about this, and then as we approach the decisions and challenges, we need to start thinking about how do we translate this goodwill and good discernment into an actual response, which is what product are we going to build and what features are we going to build. We will run into many crises during the day. We will run into many frustrations during the day. We will run into many challenges during the day. And at each step, if we've built the muscle of faith and prayer, and I'll tell you exactly what this means for me, this can actually help us to be very clear and yet I would say kind and nurturing and helpful in our response. Many times where even if you've made a slight improvement here, that can make a huge difference to somebody or an opportunity versus just reacting mindlessly to some particular crisis or something like that. So for me, this starts on a daily basis actually with reading the daily gospel. Very simple thing. Before I pick up my phone in the morning, I pick up this book called Give Us This Day, which our church hands out. It happens to be a series of daily reflections, prayers, the daily gospel reading. And then after that, it happens to be a reflection of what exactly that means and what can we take away from this? Like, how can we reflect on it? And I've found it's actually quite amazing how those thoughts and grounding can stay with me through my day and help me remember, oh, today's reading was about this topic. And so now I can actually go apply that, or even if I apply that just once during the day, that's a tremendous step forward versus just reacting or just doing something without being grounded in that clarity of the morning reading. Many decisions that have to be made daily. There are many opinions. There are many conflicts. It's amazing how even before you go into a very difficult meeting or a stressful situation, simply praying for guidance and grounding works for me. I've been pretty amazed at this over the last several years. And then also never lose sight of why you're here, right? What is the purpose? And that's why we talked about earlier, discerning and really praying about, are we doing the right thing? I think the previous speaker talked about, even in the subject of war, is it a just war, right? I mean, if you have that perspective, it can lead you to be very thoughtful and respectful of the opportunity as you progress to solving the problem through technology. And the last thing is, what if you make a mistake? Okay, like it's possible. I mean, we're all human. We all make many mistakes. The important thing here is not about mistake and feeling sorry for it and all that. I mean, that's great. That's wonderful. The important thing is, what do we do moving forward? How do we respond? And again, being thoughtful, being prayerful, and reflecting upon what could I have done better? What could we have done better? Did we lose sight of the bigger goal? Those are really helpful conversations to have so that we can continue to make amazing progress as we do the next great thing, right? So having that grounding is just so important. So what does this mean in terms of product design, right? So start with the basics. So you look at human beings, and all of us, certainly through COVID, can relate to this very well. There's fundamentally the basics of what we need to survive, right? You need, food, water, air, so on and so forth. As it pertains to technology, I think we would all agree that we need to have a good internet connection. We need electricity. We need, good Wi-Fi, shall we say. Once we have those basics in place, we start to get concerned about a higher order of things that are dear to us, right? Do we feel well? Do we feel happy? The things that we need to get done daily, are we doing those things efficiently? Are we removing obstacles? And then there's a joy in learning new things, and do we have the ability to do that? And then all of these aspects lead to us, for example, even as part of this community right now, a sense of belonging, a sense of joy and happiness and peace. And these things kind of build on each other. So the thing which I'd like to stress here is starting with the basics of trying to understand the needs of individuals or the needs of this product or service is remarkably helpful, is amazingly helpful. Then we start thinking, okay, where do I work? Right, Sanjay, like where do I work? I happen to work in this organization called Google Nest, and we have a wonderful mission to create a helpful home, so on and so forth. But now how can I combine the resources that I have available to me in my job with this desire to be helpful and my desire to ground my thinking in faith and thoughtfulness and discernment? So when we did that for me and for my team several years ago, we were like, okay, I'm sorry, home Wi-Fi is an essential need. Home Wi-Fi was, spotty. It was kind of bad. Coverage was flaky. These things would reboot. Is this an essential need? And this is probably a very tactical tech thing, but if we think about the user needs and we think about how can we actually solve real problems that people are facing today, should we do it is a good question, right? Certainly with COVID in the last 4 months, 5 months, this has proven to be a very helpful and useful line of technology, which has massively helped many, many, many people all around the world. And so it's useful, but now are there more specific problems that we can solve? So if we apply this faith-based toolkit to solving a very technical problem, we can seek to understand what is the problem. I need great reliable Wi-Fi. Am I solving a critical problem? Am I solving a critical need? The answer here is fairly clear. Seek to respond, which is the coverage is spotty, it needs reboots. We want to have a thoughtful response, which is how do we create a system that works all over the house and is robust. Other problems, very complex, it's expensive, it can make things really hard for end users if you have very difficult pieces of equipment that they need to deal with. So are we making the right decisions in making this technology less intimidating? Are we making setup of these devices simple so that when users use them, they're truly grateful, they're truly happy, and they can quickly realize value in what they've paid for because we've been thoughtful about thinking about their whole experience. When we respond to this, we think about Wi-Fi routers. They are pretty horrible looking usually, so can we make something that's beautiful, right, and looks better so it's placed outside? So on and so forth. We start with a basic set of responses to a key challenge that came from basic user needs. And then from there, at every step of the way, we think, we ponder, we reflect, and then we respond and we evolve. This is a very important thing to do. And I suppose it can apply to literally anything in life. But as it pertains to my job, don't lose sight of the big picture, but then there's a little picture of micro decisions that you need to be able to make. There's big strategic problems that, should we enter a certain area? There's little problems that you need to solve. And as we ponder these questions of, what do we build? How much should we charge? Are we being really thoughtful? Oh my gosh, I feel really stressed. I have a coworker who has deadlines and is struggling. How can I make the right decisions here? And the answers for me, at least again, are very simple. I find myself starting off my day in the morning in a positive way. I have, in fact, even found that if I forget to do that, my day may not go as well, which has been quite an interesting learning for me. Once I have that grounding, discern, respond. Does this work? Right? At the end of the day, we're talking about how do you tie discernment, prayer, faith into ultimately what is product development and serving end users and ultimately business results. We found this to be pretty remarkable. And again, I'll say this is my personal approach to things, which probably influences my team in a certain way as I try to conduct myself and I try to help the team get through decisions and work on problems that are worth solving in our opinion. But the results are actually quite amazing to us that, points to ponder. Was it my faith that helped me? Well, at least for me, to stay grounded on rough days and on good days, right? My typical day, I talked about that. Before any difficult situation or difficult meeting or challenge, I've built the muscle over the years to remember, even if it's just a quick prayer, to say, dear Lord, help me through what is about to come. And I've been quite amazed at the impact of that on my thought process. I usually end the day with this prayer called the Examen, again from my Jesuit high school days. And the prayer is actually really simple. It takes about 10 minutes to do, and it consists of a few steps. I'd just like to very quickly state those steps and encourage you to Google this and look at this. So it's number one: put yourself in the presence of the Lord and thank the Lord for your time this day. And this is why I do it at the end of the day. The next thing is you literally go through every day that you can remember, or every hour that you can remember of that day, asking yourself to the best of what you can remember, hey, did I act in a way that would make me proud and make the Lord proud of me and the way in which I'm conducting myself, right? That's an important thing you can reflect on at the end of the day. And listen, it's okay if you slipped up. That's fine. It's okay. Like I will do this daily, where I'll do things I'm not proud of, and that's fine. Whether you snapped at someone or you made a decision that wasn't the best, or those sort of things, right? The next thing you do is you reflect on all the things that have gone well and gone poorly. The last thing is you close with asking the Lord to help you in the future decision that you make in this way, and then that ends my day. So it's a rather simple process. A friend of mine walked me through this a few years ago, and I found this to be just phenomenally helpful and uplifting to me as I go through my day. There's plenty of evidence of the effects of faith in the workplace. There's a lot of research on this as well, which I encourage you to Google. And with that, I'd like to just leave you with a few closing thoughts. Think about what are our true foundations as we think about designing solutions to problems. How should we think about those problems? Are they worth solving? Are they doing things for the greater good of our communities or the user base that we seek to serve? There are actually fairly simple answers and methods to deal with this if you build a muscle of thoughtfulness and prayer and grounding, and that's certainly been what works for me. So with that, I want to conclude my part of this and open up for questions.
Thanks, Sanjay. That was a really good talk, highlighting kind of the practical aspects of combining your faith and working in product design. So thank you for providing some of those insights. Now John will relay some of the questions from the audience.
Sanjay, first off, before the questions, some things from the audience that are being brought up. They really appreciate the talk outline that you gave very clearly, and also that you came after Derek, because Derek was providing this foundation and now you're making it super practical. What can you do? So they were mentioning, this thing of, they see the fatherhood thing of like wanting to make things practically accessible. And so that's the first comment, that just like, wow, this is great. They feel like you're a coach. So they're wondering, are you a coach at Google for the product team or things like that? Does this ever help you to coach people better as you know God? Does it help you to know how to manage this process for your teams like you were talking about?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to share with everyone. I certainly enjoy the process of trying to coach folks through this for our product team. I've taught a few classes internally to new product managers on how to be a good product manager at Google, and certainly out of respect for everyone's faiths and different points of views, I will not explicitly say that I'm Catholic in such a forum. However, I am very unshy about this with my team, and they all appreciate it. I will frequently joke about, hey, the Lord says, ask and you shall receive, right? When we talk about asking tough questions. And so I think that it's very clear to everyone that I try to have this grounding. I also make it very clear to everyone that I fail daily. And this is why I find myself needing to have the spiritual guidance, so that I try to fail slightly less every day. So I think it's just a wonderful way of looking at this and trying to tie things together.
That's great. Thank you. So the second question would be surrounding part of the vision that you have for your work. So a lot of people are trying to figure out if technology is something that you're describing where does it need to be created and can it be accessible? They're trying to see if you gained that vision from somewhere. Is there a certain place besides your Jesuit heritage that you look to say, this is a grounding for me? Are there any other areas that people can explore?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a person who learns by doing, and over the years, had some really amazing opportunities to help through our parish. We've gone on some mission trips to East Texas into some pretty poor communities, and I think going to those opportunities along with my kids really helped me to understand where technology was not accessible to people, where folks like us in Silicon Valley wouldn't bat an eyelid spending $200 on something that might help us in some way, but we're really not sure. You can't really do that when it comes to vast majority of people, and so you need to be really thoughtful about, are you building something that is useful, that is accessible? And these days, you can even be creative in the business model, right? Can you look at ways to get a product to somebody by being creative so that they don't have to spend a ton of money up front, for example? These are all practical ways in which we can just look to make technology more accessible. And I really feel like even the best tech, unless it has a way to get to end users, is completely useless. So you have to think that through almost as, I would say, perhaps even more stringently than the tech itself.
Thanks for giving the deeper layer there. And the personal story does, it does resonate, because absolutely, when we see ourselves in our bubble, sometimes it feels normal to have certain things. And then when we go outside of that, being really innovative takes on not just is something a good problem to solve, but how can you most effectively solve something for the widest common denominator of people? And so I think there's another question. So what got you started with Nest? Or are there certain things that in the technology world you would love to see people have access to? Those are, I think it's just kind of a hybrid question. Like, yeah, what got you started in that specific area, if you have an answer? And then secondly, what do you want to see in the world that's more accessible in technology?
Sure. I mean, I don't want to make this into a sales pitch for Nest. I think that our product line is really very thoughtful and very helpful. But what appealed to me about this problem area was it is about solving real problems that people face in their daily lives, right? Whether it's about connectivity, which is what I do, or helpfulness, which is what, for example, our cameras do or our displays do, or things like that, right? So that's what was really appealing to me, where there was a very practical and tangible application of very complicated technology, but brought in a humane and user-friendly way, thanks to Google's approach to how they designed this. So that was what was appealing to me. I think in terms of how can products be truly helpful, I think it comes down to the philosophy again of Google's hardware organization, or what we say is organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. That's the mantra of the company. That universally accessible piece is so important. It's not only about organizing the world's information or being truly helpful or don't be evil or all those things. It's about the universally accessible part that is so important. So as we go through technology development, it is a key piece of our DNA, and something I've learned here and built over here. But also personally, I just love this, that don't go build something really fancy, which you'll price yourself out of users who would really benefit from it. It is okay to think about critically what are the use cases and benefits you're trying to solve, and try to do that in a way that you can distribute this in an accessible way from a pricing standpoint even. That's so important. And so that's just a philosophical thing for me personally, which is why I love my work. And it's also a philosophical thing for Google in general, and Google Nest in general.
Great. Next question. So when designing something from a faith-based perspective like you have, do you ever come into conflict with other people that aren't designing it from that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think conflict is good as long as it's respectful and thoughtful. Indeed, as a product manager, we are trained to welcome and embrace different perspectives. So some of these perspectives that might be in conflict, and again, who's to say what is truly, like, who made me the judge of what is the right faith-based approach, right? I think the right faith-based approach is when you are discerning, when you're seeking to understand some of the things I talked about earlier. So, for example, you may be dealing with a particularly difficult problem, and somebody might be concerned about profitability. Somebody might be concerned about a legal repercussion. Somebody might be concerned about a technical problem, right? And as the product manager, you get to balance those different perspectives, but you have to hear it out. I mean, you have to understand the perspective that these people are bringing. You have to start from the point of view that these experts in different areas are bringing their own best sense and best self to the problem, right? And you have to believe that, and not see the worst in people, but see the best in people. Again, I mean, does that ring a bell, right? It's being thoughtful, being understanding, and these things can be helped by bringing a faith-based perspective to it, where I have thoughtful and understanding, and then help make decisions, right? So I wouldn't say it's in conflict, but there's an opportunity there to resolve and balance by being thoughtful about it.
Great, thank you. I got to add this at the end because more people keep giving you affirmations. So I wanted to tell you on their behalf that the way that you approach things is truly remarkable, because in the Valley where things are so fast paced and you're asking people to reflect, not react, but to respond, it's something that's really refreshing for the audience. So they really appreciate that. And they're thinking that they want to apply your principle of the examine. I myself have, in my previous companies, used the examine during lunch with coworkers that all gathered together. So I just want to thank you for your leadership and for just engaging with us. One of our listeners and folks that's on the line in the Midwest also noted that it's just something that is really refreshing to hear. So thanks again.
Thank you.